To introduce Harriet, and who has been experiencing new learning around walking gait. And I think she will tell her story about what happened and how walking has figured into her life and what its value is. I think we all know that walking is really an essential human activity and is a sustaining, one of the most sustaining activities we can do. In fact, people all over the world do it. But things happen to us, right?
And today I'm feeling pretty happy because I've come back from a 2-week vacation in the Pyrenees and I have managed to walk further and higher than I have for many years, and that makes me very happy. Considering where I've come from, which is several years, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I virtually couldn't walk at all. I was even in pain sitting, and I just felt really depressed because movement is very integral to my life, or used to be.
So maybe you could demonstrate just the walking form. We can't bring the Pyrenees in the room. We can't bring the Pyrenees to what we're doing, but you can show us how you did it. In other words, the walking that you used to do this adventure this summer. And could you show us how you could follow us around, Jim? Follow the camera. It's so slow. Let's watch the form she uses. Just stay in front of the camera. That's right. Good. And what you'll see if you actually zoom in, and those of you who know more about the walking form, if you stand in place and do it, and she rotates, she's actually using a rotational mode, and she's very much over her center of gravity. In fact, the more she stays over her center of gravity, and she gets these uplifts with each step. Every step is a natural uplift. It's not work. It's determined by what we call the vectors of force in gravity field. So every time you touch the ground, if all the parts connect, she goes up. And that being able to stay up without turbulence and stress and distortion is what makes walking with ease and comfort and endurance possible. So I think she's doing it nicely now. Let's take a little walk and go ahead and walk, and we'll look at backside. And then we can turn around. You can see the spirals kind of moving through. If you could see inside, you'd see a spiralic action. So this walking form, which of course we have on our DVD on walking and in other video clips, you'll see. So this is now what you're doing. That took you up to the Pyrenees?
Well, you must remember that I used to limp so badly.
How did you limp? Show us how you used to limp.
Firstly, I would walk forward like this.
Yeah.
And then I guess, because you don't know it, I try and be proud. I try very much not to limp. Yeah. But because my right ankle is fused, and I had all sorts of pain in knees.
So you walk like that.
I walk like that.
And that's enough to...
But I think that basically now I've worked, I can stand up straight.
What made the difference, by the way? How did you make this transition, which I know as you tell your story? How did you discover this new way?
So first I was told that chiropractic would do. So I went for a year to a chiropractor and nothing made sense, and it certainly didn't help, although they assured me I was better. So that was no good. Then they said try herbs. So I tried various herbs. And that didn't really work. I mean, maybe it helped a bit, but it's certainly people were still commenting about my limbs. And one day my husband told me, you know, there's this guy, Josef DellaGrotte, he's supposed to be really good and he focuses on walking. That's what I wanted. I've done Pilates, that was something else I did, and that helped a bit, but I still, come September, I was totally in bad shape because as the seasons change, all your joints hurt. And so last December, I visited Josef DellaGrotte, and since then, exactly what he said made so much sense. Mechanics of movement really made a lot of sense. It just was straightforward philosophy, which is not easy to understand or to train oneself to. And then when I said, well, I can't, but he said, well, it's like playing the violin, you have to practice. So I tried to understand what he was saying, and I tried to practice. And this time was the first time my husband's very athletic, and I have been trying to walk with him, and I've been in a great deal of pain. And this year was the first time where I was able to really keep up with him and cover significant distance and climb considerable heights. And I wasn't in agony. I actually enjoyed it, and that was great.
And it's actually an open secret, because what she did internally by a combination of the classes and the practice and working with her is that she learned how to, her brain to read the coordinates and put them together so that they just lifted her.
And this was particularly noticeable coming down the mountains, which formerly I had knee problems, was very painful. But having practiced with Joseph and Jamie, this motion, this swing motion, really helped to take the weight off one's joints and enabled me to really come down the 2,500 feet as well as go up it.
Okay. Sit down and tell us a little more about your personal history. This might be interesting to people who have, related experiences. Or so.
Well,
So what happened? You loved walking. There you were. You used to walk a lot. And then you had this accident, huh?
Well, I was a rower as well. I did all sorts of sports, and I was in a rowing aid going to practice, and I fell off my bicycle and smashed up my ankle. And I was told I'd never walk again, but being in a hurry and being young, I was only 22 at the time, I was very impatient, and things were fine for a bit, and eventually my whole ankle disintegrated, and I ended up having an ankle fusion about 20 years ago. And that ankle fusion set in motion problems because now my legs were slightly different lengths and I didn't have the mobility in that ankle anymore. And the damage travelled from my ankle up, which now, having learnt Joseph's philosophy, it makes perfect sense, but I didn't know at the time. The damage travelled through my knee up to my hip, into my spine.
Right, so the next thing went the hip then, right?
And so I had terrible back pain, and I'd go to the doctors and they'd say, well, give me pain injections, nothing helped. And they said, well, we don't know what to do. Surgery, you've got stenosis and you've got arthritis and you've got God knows what going on. Sorry, there's not much we can do for you. And so eventually I thought, well, I better go and check on my hip. And then it turned out I had a hole in my pelvis, led to a hip operation, and I had a hip replacement about 5 years ago. And that did in fact help my back. But as a result of the hip operation, it turned out that I had a shortened, psoas muscle or whatever, but my limping, although I was in less pain, I was limping a lot. And that then transpired 2 years ago into really bad knee pain, actually in both knees, and resulted in having some knee injections and being told, well, that one must...
Notice in everything she's saying that they always treat where the problem is, whereas actually what was happening is that these were all linked in a common pattern, but nobody was working with the pattern. And when you started working with the pattern, which is the movement repatterning, the integration, using the integration and better movement, the brain was thinking now of putting it all together again.
Well, but I also have kept on trying to do all sorts of exercise, like biking and swimming. But while I was biking and swimming, I was also thinking about what Joseph was telling me about this movement, and thinking about my hips, the movement there, this pelvic floor connection and so forth. And it's sort of slowly, everything has got easier. It's sort of, I crossed the critical barrier where everything was an effort, and I tried to do everything, just because if you don't move, you get depressed, and also you get less fit, and so forth, and I wasn't ready to be sedentary.
So you're on your way? Has you got any
so
other?
Now I feel really excited, because suddenly I can start doing things I haven't done for a long time. I've got a long way to go. I'm still, slow. I'd like to climb 5,000 feet, not just 2,500 feet.
Very nice.
But
it's a wonderful start.
Yeah.
And it really demonstrates something, and you're telling a story about the wonderful capacity of our bodies and brains. That, as the books have been written about it, one is called Younger Next Year, and there's, that when you exercise your system, we are either getting better or we degenerate. There really is no third position, which we think there is, but there isn't. You either improve as an organic system or you decline. That's the rule of life, really. And you took the path of improvement, and it's working. I mean, we call it Younger Next Year, or getting better with age. But you don't, ultimately nobody can run faster when they're older, but we move better. We learn to...
Well, you have to be thoughtful about the way you move, because you are more limited as you get older, and it does take time to get better. It takes time and it takes effort, and it takes effort to maintain. Yeah. But as you have no choice unless you want to just be in pain and disabled all the time. So, but it does take time and patience,
and the rewards are great.
And the rewards are great. Yeah.
Thank you for being here and doing this great work. May you do many more.
Yeah, thank you, Joseph. Thank you very much.